When I think of nostalgic shows from the turn of the millennium, I don't always go to Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, or whatever this garbage is. My time spent watching cartoons and weird sitcoms was equally matched by my love for nature and natural history documentaries. There was so much good stuff back then, from the Walking With saga, Eyewitness, and you can bet I'm including those cryptozoology shows too. Give me that weird purple Monster Quest eye. I live for weird purple Monster Quest eye. But the center for my interest in the natural world, the planet, was Animal Planet. Early 2000s Animal Planet shows were bomb. From the planet's funniest animals, the most extreme in Death Battle Before Death Battle, Animal Face-Off. Wow. But the Anchor Show, the show that opened the door for Animal Planet's viability as a channel and the gateway for my love of this genre, the Jeff Corwin Experience. But today we're talking about the Crocodile Hunter. The Crocodile Hunter has to be the single most iconic nature series or even possibly documentary series ever. Hosted by married couple Steve and Terri Irwin, the show's basic premise was inspired by their work for the Australian Zoo, which was founded by Steve's parents. Episode to episode, the two would usually go into heavy populated areas to capture and relocate rare or dangerous animals to a safer place. Of course, the highlight of the show would be how up close and personal Steve would get, often putting himself into very dangerous situations, which he would acknowledge with his signature catchphrase, "Uh-oh." But his much more iconic phrase, "crikey," would be the one to catch on. The Crocodile Hunter show and the Irwins themselves became global phenomenons, using most of the attention to funnel money back into their conservation efforts and into the zoo itself. But like every other pop culture icon, there was merchandise, there was games, there was late show appearances, and of course, cash grabs. At the peak of this popularity came a feature film, a Crocodile Hunter theatrically released film. Crocodile Hunter Collision Course, which is one of the wildest, most insanely creative films I have ever seen. So how would they adapt this documentary series into a feature film? Would they go global, going across the globe? Would they have to hunt 2 crocodiles and change the name of the movie to Crocodiles Hunter? Or maybe they would spice things up with an alligator. No. They took the Crocodile Hunter, a show about somebody showing you animals, and turned it into a high-stakes political thriller. Oh, I didn't expect the best film ever made so soon. So the movie starts with a spy satellite exploding and its hard drive content crashing to Earth. The US government is all up in arms about this because I guess the content of the satellite's hard drive, quote, has enough documentation to change the power structure of the modern world and whatnot. And I'm just over here like, this is pretty high stakes for Steve Irwin.
Have a look at this. Pooh. I'm gonna save this for later.
I think what makes this film so purely fascinating is the fact that it's literally 2 separate films that have very little to do with each other. Basically, there's 3 storylines going on. There's a rural living Australian lady wanting to shoot a big crocodile, 2 groups from 2 branches of the US government competing to find the satellite hard drive so their superiors can get promotions, and the Irwins filming an episode of their show, totally unaware of the goings-on of the other 2 plot lines.
Ooh. Oh, crikey.
While everything to do with the government plotline is filmed with a studio-level crew, all of the Irwin's scenes were filmed on location in Australia, presumably with his standard documentary crew. That means the film is shot with 2 separate cameras and is presented in 2 separate aspect ratios. You lying, stealing, stupid idiot. So there's this whole other plot line going on with this lady who owns a farm. She wants to murder this big old lizard because it's trying to eat her cows. But luckily, the Irwins get word and are called in to relocate it. But this isn't any ordinary crocodile. This is a pretty big crocodile. But unknown to the Irwins, the croc has chomped and swallowed the hard drive from the satellite, which crashed in Australia. The US government discovers Steve has the hard drive in his possession, which is charmingly referred to as as a satellite ball, which makes me smile because that has such a child writing science fiction charm and innocence to it. So while the Irwins think they're just taking a crocodile to a safer location, the US government believes that they are a part of some anti-government conspiracy and must be stopped before they change the entire political world.
You mean that guy in the khaki shorts? That dude on the Discovery Channel?
And the reason why they think this is because while the Irwins have gone, all around the world to film their documentary series, they often happen to be in places during times of political turmoil and unrest.
In '98, they were in Kenya when our embassy was targeted, and in East Timor in '99, just after the Civil War.
Holy fuck, that's amazing. So it's a race between Steve and the US government to get to some pond to release the crocodile. But Steve just thinks the US government are poachers, so he keeps running from them. This is such a wild plot for the Crocodile Hunter movie. Like every single time I see a little text box that's like CIA headquarters, I can't help but to laugh because it's just so absurd. Like I think you could make a Crocodile Hunter movie be a simple plot like poachers versus Steve Irwin. That is enough. But this is a theatrical movie for theaters, so there had to be super high stakes. And those stakes just happened to be Steve the Calves Irwin using his money from the Animal Planet to fund political unrest throughout the world. Does the Animal Planet have that kind of capital? Do zoos bring in that much bank? But what makes it so beautiful are just the tonal whiplash you get going from the government plotline to anything involving the Irwins. It's beautiful. This separation of production was because of a simple, yet troublesome issue. The Irwins can't act.
I can't get it, she's thrashing too hard.
But that's okay. That's not what they were known for, but oh, that wasn't acting. Mom? That's not to say the Irwins weren't involved in the other side of the production. Steve was actually the animal wrangler for the film, even serving as a stunt double for the farmer character. However, this is like a weird pro wrestling version of Steve Irwin. Steve Irwin would make a great pro wrestling persona. While his stunts or handling of the crocodile were real, they were in a more controlled set environment, so proper lighting and angles could be achieved. So while he actually is in the water going with that crocodile, it was a more controlled environment, so they could continue working with the same crocodile for longer stretches as they filmed. The crocodile itself is just a member of the zoo. So the Irwins and the crew went out and filmed a basic informative documentary about some of Australia's wildlife. Then their segments were chosen and edited, and the film's script was rewritten so those particular animals chosen could participate in the movie's climax. It's just this weird production. But during most of the production, the Irwins were actually left pretty unaware of what the film's final story would be, which is why it comes across so genuine that they're unaware of the plot of the film in the film, because they literally weren't aware of it. For the most part, the story is just this dull, slow-moving, bore you to tears kind of thing. But then the Irwins are on screen, and oh hell yeah, animals! But then the government agents are on screen, and it's insufferably boring. I just want to be death rolled by a crocodile, just so I could feel something kind of boring. Then Steve is on screen and everything is good in the world. God, he was such a charisma engine. And then the rural lady's on screen and it's just like, what's her deal? Oh boy, Steve's got a snake!
What a beauty. I'd call it her because I'm in love with her now.
What we got here is a beautiful hole, and that's what stimulates the spider.
This movie has a lot going on. The scenes with all of the government agents are so boring. It feels like Austin Powers with no jokes. Like they take the story so seriously, but it's all so ridiculous. We might as well be watching a movie where one half is the Irwins showing off the animals, and the other half is an actual documentary about the Discovery Network's accounting firm working out the budget for the next season of the show. That's how little drama it adds.
Woo, you can feel him grinding into the
Steve,
stick.
I got it.
Have a go at that,
I hear
Lou.
you, Steve.
Hey,
Steve, stop yelling at me.
What?
The whole film is waiting for these timelines to merge, but when everything finally comes to a head, it doesn't disappoint.
Steady, mate. This bloke's off the Richter scale.
Yeah! Steve doesn't enter their world, they come to him and they say thank you when he punches them in the face. Steve turning to the camera here has got to be one of the highlights in the entire canon of cinema. It's such a sobering reminder of what you're watching. A bit of a mess. Apparently, Steve was just told the basic premise on the day of filming, and they filmed and improvised all of the scenes together, just so Steve didn't really have to act. He could just pretend to react, which is kind of acting, but he's so nonchalant about it.
This bloke's trespassing on my territory.
It feels like it's just any regular episode of The Crocodile Hunter. There's even narration mid-fight. It's just like this bizarre convergence where the reality of the film comes into this weird, strange, pro wrestling style pseudo-reality. I mean, the rest of the Irwin's storyline is presented as if it's an actual documentary.
We're here in the outback on a field study trip for the zoo. We're hoping to find some of the more unlovable of Australia's creatures for research.
Here's your food, mate. Danger. See ya.
Is he trying to kill them?
If they stay in the water long enough, the hunters will become the hunted. That's nature's way.
Oh my god, he's trying to kill them. You don't f with Steve Irwin. The movie's entire vibe is like when a character says, "This isn't a movie in a movie." I can't think of any other film that has such a strange view of reality. Maybe Charlie Kaufman's adaptation? Wait a minute. You snake oil seller, lying, stealing son of a bitch. Steve and Terri eventually get the government agents to beat the hell out of each other for the sake of the environment. And Steve, being the weirdo he is, digs the satellite ball out of the crocodile's excrement and says, "What's this? Oh, I don't give a fuck," and he chucks it over a cliff. But then it finally happens. The government finally catches Steve.
Crikey!
But fortunately, Steve and the US government come to an agreement, and the government agents and the farmer are forced to work at the zoo, cause I needed closure to that story. The movie ends with a blooper reel just to confirm that these events are not canon to the Crocodile Hunter lore. It's one of those like side anime movie spin-offs. And we get a special remix rendition of Elton John's Crocodile Rock performed by the Baha Men, just in case you wanted to know who let the dogs out. Wow. What a movie. The Crocodile Hunter collision course is such a trip. It's such a trip. I sincerely cannot think of another movie that's pieced together like this. I'm trying. For the most part, this movie is just like a fever dream. It's this surreal thing that feels like it was pieced together using stock footage. But if you grew up watching The Crocodile Hunter like I did, it's actually a genuinely great way to revisit it. Just feel free to talk or skip over the government parts. You really don't need to see those. All right, so this